Hello everyone and welcome back to Almost There, a Twisted Tale novel audiobook sessions here on the Disney Magic Zach channel. I am your host, Zach Campbell, and if you've joined me along for the previous episodes, welcome back. And if you're new here, be sure to go and check out the playlist that is down in the description of the prologue and chapter 1. A very exciting story to say the least so far. I am very much enjoying this, and I hope you are too. So, without further ado, let's get into chapter 2. So, grab yourself a drink, sit back, relax. Let's indulge in chapter 2 entitled Facilier. Just wait a second there, Tiana, Facilier implored after he collected himself. He forced out a chuckle. Be careful with that. It's an heirloom. He tried to project an air of cool indifference, despite the rampant desperation pulsing through his veins. The amulet was the key to everything. As long as it held a sample of Prince Naveen's blood, its designated wearer could take on the prince's appearance. Without it, Facilier's ploy to gain control of Eli LaBeouf's fortune through his love-struck daughter Charlotte would crumble. But even more important, he would have to pay the high price his friends on the other side had attached to it. Tiana held his very life in her hands. Facilier clutched his fist at his sides, wishing he could wrap his hands around that gutless Lawrence's neck. Lawrence had allowed Facilier's treasured talisman to fall into Tiana's hands, and because of that, he now found himself in a position of weakness, having to make a bargain with the slip of a girl. You should have known Tiana wouldn't take the easy way out when it came to her restaurant. She would never take pride in something she hadn't earned. People like her suffered under the foolish notion that the hard work made them better, made them more deserving than those who were smart enough to take advantage of life's shortcuts. People like him. Even after turning down his offer to get that restaurant, Facilier had been certain that dangling the prospect of seeing her father again would do the trick. Bringing James back was a tall order and would come at a high price, possibly more than he'd ever had to pay to his friends on the other side, but he'd been willing to do it. He was willing to do just about anything to secure that talisman, and Tiana had thrown his offer back in his face. He hadn't wanted to resort to this, but she left him no other choice. If he couldn't sweet talk her into returning his prosperity, that's not what that says. I guess. If he couldn't sweet talk her into returning his property, intimidation was his only recourse. Before you turn down my proposition, there's still the matter of your little froggy prince to discuss, Facilier said. Naveen? Her eyes widened. It was exactly the reaction he'd hoped for. He had a feeling that she'd fall in love with that prince. It would be her downfall. Where is he? Tiana asked. Where's Naveen? Don't you worry about where he is. You need to think about what he is. You might be willing to give up your dreams, but will you give up his in the process? Facilier continued. If you want your precious Naveen to ever be human again, you better give me what's mine. You're lying, Tiana. You're lying. Tiana shook her head. All Naveen has to do to turn human again is kiss a princess. And Charlotte LeBeau is a princess because her daddy is the king of Mardi Gras. Come now, Tiana. Facilier tusked. You're smarter than that. You know Miss LaBeouf isn't a real princess, and neither are you. If Naveen doesn't kiss himself a real princess by midnight, he will live forever as a frog. No, Tiana gasped. Yes. He detected the tiniest signal that she was starting to waver, and pounced. But you can save him. Tiana, you can get everything you ever wanted. You and your prince can. He stopped. What was he thinking? Naveen was his ticket to Eli LaBeouf, the most powerful man in New Orleans. Now that the scheme he'd crafted with Lawrence had fallen apart, Facilier needed the real Naveen to continue a courtship with LaBeouf's daughter. An eventual marriage between those two was still his best shot at gaining control over LaBeouf's money. He should have focused on the price from the very beginning instead of partnering with that spineless Lawrence. That devil-may-care attitude of his maid, Naveen, and an easy one to manipulate. No. That devil-may-care attitude of his maid, Naveen. Oh my God, shut up. That devil-may-cry attitude of his made Naveen an easy one to manipulate. As long as he could keep getting a drop of Naveen's blood every so often, he could control him. But that would never happen if Naveen and Tiana were together. Almost everything you ever wanted, I should say. Here's my offer, Facilier started. You hand me that talisman. In return, I'll bring your daddy back, and I'll make your little prince human again. He held up a finger. There's just one thing. Once the spell is broken, Naveen won't remember a single thing about any of this. And if you want him to remain human, the little dalliance between you two can be no more. Are you saying? I'm saying that you must forfeit the love of your sweet Prince Naveen in return for him being human again. She gasped. But that's not fair. Life isn't fair, Facilier snapped. Where was the fairness in what he now faced? He'd have to strike yet another bargain with his friends on the other side in order to deliver everything he'd promised her. The price would undoubtedly be high, putting him in even deeper debt to them. And what is she sacrificing? Her little infatuation with that dunderheaded prince. He was doing her a favour. According to Lawrence, Naveen was useless. A broke, lazy burden on his parents, who would only hold Tiana back. Without Naveen weighing her down, and with the help of her father, once Facilier bargained for James's return, Tiana would have her restaurant in no time at all. Compare that to what he was getting out of his deal. Nothing. But wait a minute. Maybe there was more in it for him. Facilier thought about the small vial in his jacket pocket that contained a tincture he'd whipped up for some of his more stubborn clientele. It made those who consumed it more malleable to his wishes, at least for a little while. If he could convince Tiana to add a bit of it to a gumbo, he could manipulate all who ate it into giving him whatever valuables they had in their possession. Facilier's lips curled up in a smile as something else occurred to him. Tiana and LeBouf's daughter, Charlotte, were thick as thieves. It stood to reason that Eli LeBouf would become a loyal patron of any restaurant Tiana eventually opened. If he could even get a drop of this tincture into LeBouf himself, it could be another avenue to get to the sugar baron should his plan with Naveen ever fall through. Another way to fill his coffers. A fail-safe. The possibilities were too delicious to contemplate. But first he had to convince Tiana. Before we go any further, I'll need to consult my friends on the other side, Facilier said. You understand, don't you? He closed his eyes, leaving a short sliver open so that he could keep Tiana in his sights. Then he began to speak gibberish, yammering like a baby. He would make the bargain with his friends on the other side once he returned to his shop, but Tiana had to believe he was making the deal for a daddy here and now. He put on a stellar show, if he did say so himself. Yes, Facilier said. What are they saying? Tiana asked. He held up a finger, silencing her. Of course, yes, that's very reasonable, Facilier murmured. That shouldn't be a problem at all. He added more gibberish for good measure, then made a production of releasing himself from his trance. He belonged on a vaudeville stage with that performance. Facilier settled his gaze on Tiana once again. My friends on the other side have named their price. You are very lucky, Tiana. It's hardly anything at all. He produced the vial from his pocket. In return for making your froggy prince human again, and for bringing your dear Father James back to life, all you have to do is add a small drop of this potion to your gumbo once you inevitably open your restaurant. After all, your hard work helps you to do so. Tiana was instantly suspicious. What's in it? Well, he needed to think fast. Well, you know better than anyone that gumbo was your father's signature dish. I ate some of James' gumbo a time or two myself. He rubbed his stomach. Delicious stuff. What does that have to do with whatever's in that little bottle there? This contains the magic that will keep your daddy alive. What better way to do that than through his gumbo? You see, Tiana, that's just how my friends on the inside operate. It's poetic in a way, isn't it? How do you even know you were talking to these friends of yours a minute ago? She asked. Why should I trust you at all, Shadow Man? This was exactly why he couldn't trust her around Naveen. She was too smart for her own good. Because we can both benefit from this, Tiana. You have something I want, and I can provide things that you want. How do I know whatever you have in that vial won't kill anyone who drinks it? Facilier chuckled. If that's what my friends wanted to do, they could have done that a long time ago. He tipped the vial to his lips, pretending to take a sip. It's harmless, he said. What is it supposed to do, exactly? Facilier held up his hands. I don't question my friends, Tiana, and neither should you. Their magic is 1,000 times more powerful than mine. If they say that a tiny drop of this in your gumbo will keep your father alive, then you need to trust them. Sensing the need for extra insurance, Facilier added, and don't forget about Naveen. You're saving him, along with all the people you love. You can make sure no harm comes to any of them, Tiana. Her eyes widened with alarm. What do you mean by that? All the people I love? Accidents happen all the time. Facilier hunched his shoulders. Are you threatening me? She asked, her voice once again strident with staunch defiance. I'm warning you, he snapped. Things will get very, very ugly if you choose to ignore such a generous offer. He could tell she was starting to waver. He waved a hand, and one by one, phantom versions of Tiana's loved ones appeared in the air. Her mother, that maddening prince, the LaBeouf girl, the neighbours she had grown up with, and one by one, the fingers crumbled, lying lifeless on the invisible floor. Tiana gasped as the apparitions disappeared. Facilier moved in closer. So, do we have a deal? You're not giving me much of a choice, are you? Either I make this deal with you, or innocent people will be hurt. We all have choices to make, Tiana. The question is whether or not we're prepared to face the consequences of those choices. She defiantly thrust her chin into the air and held her shoulders back, but Facilier saw through her bravado. He was back in control. She might have held her life in her hands, but she didn't know that. That's not what it says. She might have held his life in her hands, but she didn't know that. That was his ace. Tiana not knowing just how much power that talisman possessed. What's it going to be, Tiana? She glared at him with burning anger in her eyes. Facilier knew he'd backed her into a corner. If I have to give up Naveen, there are several things I want in return, Tiana said. Even when she had no way out, she still drove a hard bargain. In a way, he could admire that. It was too bad she was such a goody two-shoes. With her gumption, Tiana could help him take over this entire city. What is it you want? He asked. You have to promise that my family will be safe. I don't want any harm coming to them. She hesitated for a moment and then said, and you have to help my two friends, Louis and Ray. Louis wants to be human so he can play with a jazz band in the music halls here in New Orleans. Either your friends make that happen or no deal. And Ray? Well, I would feel better knowing that he's close by, where I can keep an eye on him, that he's safe. Facilier interrupted her. I'm afraid that won't be necessary. I almost felt sorry for Tiana as her forehead dipped in a confused frown. Almost. What do you mean? He asked. Remember what I said about our choices having consequences? He arched one brow. Well, your little firefly sealed his fate when he stole my talisman. Her face fell as understanding dawned, and Tiana clutched her hands to her chest. Oh, Ray, she cried. But the gator? Facilier continued with a shrug. I'll have a talk with my friends, but I'm pretty sure I can make that happen. You can assure me that whatever it is in that vial won't harm anyone? It's simply the magic that keep my daddy alive and keep my family safe. There's nothing simple about this magic, except for your part in this, of course. You just remember to put a drop of it in your gumbo, and no harm will come to anyone. And you and your dear father will be cooking once again. Facilier squeezed his hands at his sides as he leant forward, his excitement on the verge of overwhelming. So, Tiana, do we have a deal? She pressed her lips together. For dear old Dad, he continued. For a moment, a streak of true terror rushed through him at the reluctance he saw in her eyes. But then Tiana struck out her hand that held his talisman. Deal. There we are. That was chapter 2 of Almost There, a twisted tale novel. And this is where it feels like it's going to start taking the alternate route of what would happen if. I'm very, very excited to continue reading and see where it all leads. So, thank you all so much for joining me here today on this magical journey of Almost There. I hope you are enjoying these. I am enjoying creating these, very much so. I enjoy a good book. I enjoy reading. I enjoy doing this. But yeah, thank you so much. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you are new here. And share it out, man. And have a wonderful day. Hope you're all having a fantastic day. And I'll catch you all in the next one. Until then, much love. Have a magical day.